Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to azizdrives. Today we have the entrance model AMG, the CLA45 AMG from 2016, the baby Benz. In the 90s, a baby Benz was called the C-Class. Now it has advanced, of course, and we have the A-Class, the CLA, and all of those cars. This was the first CLA model that came out in 2014, I guess. And it was quite controversial because AMG used to put V8s into their AMG cars. And this one has a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. But make no mistake, the car is pretty fast. 381 horsepower and 475 Newton meters of torque. And how that goes, we're gonna find out right now. Sport Plus. Écoutez, écoutez. I mean, that's what this car is for, man. It's just to be loud, a loud ass, goofy little car. Yep, let's do that one more time. I always was a big fan of those pops and bangs at about 4,500 RPMs on the A45 and the CLA45. I mean, this feels, it sounds great. It sounds great. The car has an all-wheel drive system. It's a 4MATIC, but it is more of a front-wheel drive, and it only uses the rear wheels when it actually needs to. So when we have slip at the back, you will feel the rear axle start to take over and push the car out of the corner. Now, currently, wet conditions, it tends to do that a little more. What is interesting is, I like the feedback, really. I like the feedback of the steering wheel. I think that is very good. I like how the throttle behavior is. Although this is a turbocharged car, you might assume it should have a little bit of a delay, but this doesn't. It feels very solid. The engine is very responsive. This gearbox is very responsive. It's a 7-speed dual clutch gearbox, and the car itself feels very solid. The engine, very interesting. It doesn't have a big turbo lag. It is kind of a linear turbo progression to the highest RPM, and it has 1.8 bar. Compared to the new model, it's not a slow car, but you can feel that they have advanced more. They have 0.3 bar more on the new car, so it won't handle like the new one. I was doing research for you so I could find out what is going to happen to those cars and what might be a problem zone. And I really couldn't find a lot. Most of the people that had problems on forums, on Facebook groups, etc., they talked about the turbo, and that's about it. It's a pretty solid little thing, and I think that's great. Let's go to manual mode and let's launch it, because the car should go from 0 to 100 in 4.2 seconds. I need to find out if that's true. Okay, so what happened is, I wanted to launch it, and for some strange reason, the only thing that happened is that the front wheels started gripping. The back wheels did not do anything, and then it said 4MATIC not available. That's the shit that happens when filming cars. Filming cars is never just something you sit in the car, you film it, and it's over with. No, every time we film, something goes wrong. There's always a new challenge. So okay, I'm going to turn off the car, open the door to let the electronics, just the computers turn off. Reboot is good. Start the car. Okay, seems to work fine. Let's go into Sport Plus mode. Let's put the ESP into Sport mode, and hopefully I can do a launch control now. 4.2 seconds, 0 to 100. Handling mode. Yes. It's good. It's a good little car. Fun. It's a fun and good little car to drive. Yep, ABS works. It is going to understeer more than it will oversteer, which is good for a beginner. For me, it's a little boring, but for a beginner, it's great. I mean, look at those corners. Full on the throttle. Pushes. It understeers, to be perfectly honest, especially on a wet road. You're not going to have any kind of oversteer with that car. The latest model has a drift mode, which sends 70% of the power to the back wheels. That is something completely different. This though, especially for you youngsters out there that want to try some silly stuff, if I was your parent, I would get you this car, because the later one, let me tell you, the difference between this and the new model is like day and night. The new model doesn't just look more beautiful, it is a much faster and more explosive car. This is just perfect on the edge, really. I think this would be the perfect first car for you. Second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear, seventh gear. In an instant, back. I'm going to switch to comfort mode. I'm going to turn off all of those fancy things. I'm going to reset the fuel consumption gauge, because it tells me 20 liters right now because I pushed the car a little. Let's reset that and let's try to drive as fuel efficient as possible. The best kph to drive ecological is about 70 to 80 kph. 70 kph is right on the edge of where the aerodynamics, where the wind resistance and the car rollage is perfectly fine with you for saving fuel. And what happens here is also very good, because the car goes into neutral when I lift off the throttle, so it lets the car roll. That's exactly what I was talking about. It lets the car roll and we save some fuel. That is seamless with a dual clutch transmission. Very seamless. You don't feel anything, just press the throttle and the car goes forward. But on downhill, for example, like here, downhill bits, let the car roll a little bit, push the throttle when you tend to go up, so you stay on speed, and then accelerate gently, then lift off your throttle again, and let the car roll as much as possible. That is how you drive ecological. Pump your tires up a little bit more, put them to 2.8 bars, for example. Try to touch the throttle as less as possible. When you accelerate, as gently as possible. When you decelerate, use the gearbox to decelerate the car a little bit, so it stays always on those zero liters of fuel usage, because the cylinder turns off. And then try to drive as gently as possible. In a high gear, this one is a DCT, so let the car just do its job, and do that, and you will drive every single car, V8, or it doesn't matter which one, very ecological. And sometimes you might be surprised how efficient you can actually drive those cars when you focus on not driving like a maniac, like a lunatic. It's crazy. Your car all of a sudden becomes reliable. Let me give you an example. I drive my Aston Martin when I want it to be ecological on 10.5 liters. 10.5 liters on the Aston Martin V8. This is a 4-cylinder, so I hope I can get it to 6.1, 6.2 liters of fuel usage.